going to look at employee engagement. As the slide says, this is an overview, so it's not going to give you absolutely everything relating to employee engagement, but it should give you some general understanding of what it is and some of the key concepts around the idea of employee engagement. So when you look at the literature, there's lots and lots of different definitions of what employee engagement is, but in general, it's looking to have employees who are motivated and committed. And if you've got employees who are happy to come to work, they are motivated, they're committed, they're enjoying their work, they're going to be more productive, they're going to make less mistakes. So that's going to give the company competitive advantage. It will hopefully make it better than the competition because they've got more highly engaged workers who are more likely to stay with the company, and it will help improve the reputation of the company. It will help attract new people to the company, so it improves the branding of the company. And if the company then has better employees who want to stay there, who want to go to work, they're going to be more productive, they're going to be more profitable, and it will enhance the reputation of the company in the marketplace as well. Employee engagement is not something that you can force out of an employee. You can't say, right, I want you to be engaged. It's something that typically they will do voluntarily. What an employer has to do is to think about the environment that they're creating that is going to support the employees, that the employees will feel valued, they will feel listened to, and because of that, they are more likely to be engaged. But really, the company has to think about how does it develop policies and procedures, how does it support the employees so that the employees will actually want to come to work and will be engaged. So I have a couple of quotations here from well-known HR academics. As I say, there are lots of different definitions, and these are just a couple, just to give you a feel for what might be considered to be employee engagement. I'm not going to read them out to you, but you can see them on the screen and hopefully you can read those yourselves. So I've indicated that employee engagement is really a two-way process. The employees have to want to come to work, they've got to feel that they're valued, and they will then be more committed, they will be more motivated, and hopefully they will then be engaged. But thinking about some of the key things that we have to do to create the right kind of environment, how do we increase engagement? Well, one of the key things, and it sounds so obvious, but employers rather, get it wrong all the time. They don't put enough focus on in communication, and it's not really going to be enough for senior management, for managers to be talking at the employees or talking to the employees. The conversation has to go both ways. There has to be what we call two-way communication. So they have to pass on information to the employees, they have to talk to them, they have to let them know what's happening, but they have to involve them in the conversations. They've got to ask for their opinions, get their advice, they have to listen to them, and the employees have to feel that they're being listened to properly and seriously, and that if they're expressing their opinions, those opinions are going to be taken on board and they'll make a difference. Linked to all of that, it's really, really important for the company to think about what kind of culture are they creating. Do they have a culture where the employees feel comfortable talking to management? Do they feel that they're going to be listened to? There's no point in a company saying, right, we want to do this, we want to have good communication, if the actions of the managers are not actually supporting that. So having a culture where managers are actually supporting this, they're encouraging the employees to talk. And again, a really simple way of doing that is the concept of the open door. So a manager saying, I have an open door policy. Employees feel that they can come and approach a manager. The manager will make time for them, will listen to them, and they're not going to feel that they're just getting rushed out the door. So this idea of an open door policy from a communication point of view is really, really important. And from an HR perspective, over and over again, communication is so important. It's important to engage employees. It's important to make sure that the employees understand what's happening. It will make them more productive if they understand what's expected from them, if they understand what they're supposed to be doing. So communication at all levels is really, really important. But in terms of employee engagement, that communication between the employer and the employee is really, really important. And that links in nicely with our next point of employee voice. So employee voice is where the employee is involved in discussions, involved in processes. They have a voice and they're listened to. Traditionally, it would have been the role of the trade unions to be the voice of the employees. When we bring that more up to date and dealing with HR in the present environment, the trade unions may still be there, but they're not going to be there in every single organisation. Certainly more prevalent in the public sector than the private sector. So this is much more direct communication with the employees and not going through the trade unions. You're not necessarily going through employee representatives. There are different ways of making sure the employees have a voice, and it will vary depending on what's actually required. So at the employee level, you may have employee voice in terms of team meetings, team briefings, memos sent out to all staff where there's communication. Involvement is where you're actually involving the employees in decision making. You're involving them in consultations. Partnership is where the employees are directly involved in helping to run the business. That could be, for example, if you have employees on your management team or your board, or organisations like John Lewis Partnership, where the employees actually own the company. The company is owned by the employees, so they've got total control. But each individual employee is not sitting on the board. They will still elect representatives to represent the employees, to sit on the board and act on their behalf. A bit the way we elect our members of parliament, our politicians, to run the country. They're acting on our behalf. Okay, so employee voice. At some levels, it will be direct involvement, team meetings, for example. At other levels, it could be representatives where the employees are directly involved in the management of the organisation. But as I say, that's more likely to be representatives of the workforce rather than every single member of the workforce sitting on the board of management, for example. So, got this idea, communication is really important. We have to make sure that we're involving the employees and that they feel that they are genuinely listened to and they genuinely have a voice and they can make a difference. But companies and the HR department also need to think about, do they have an employee engagement strategy? What are they actually going to do? Develop policies and procedures. What practices should they be putting in place to make sure that they're doing all they can to create the right kind of environment for employee engagement to be at a good level? Certainly the last thing you would want is for employees to be feeling disengaged, where they're actively not engaged, where they've actually got problems and they could be having a negative impact on your business. So not only is it good to have engaged employees, but it's actually really bad to have disengaged employees because they can do a lot of damage to the company as well. Anyway, coming back to the idea of an employee engagement strategy, some of this Most of it I've probably talked about already. So needing to create the correct culture. It needs to be an open culture where employees feel that they can talk to management, they can talk to people, they can express their opinions and they're going to be taken on board. They have to feel that they can trust and that they are trusted. So they need to feel that management trusts them. Okay, and as I said previously, there has to be strong two-way communication between management and the employees. Employee voice, I've talked about. Some other examples of employee voice would be carrying out employee satisfaction surveys, finding out what the staff think, getting their opinions, getting their input. One thing to make sure when you do something like that is that if employees are expressing their opinions, you listen to them and you act on them. And if you can't act on information that's been given back, once you've got the feedback, if you can't act on it, you really should be talking to the employees and letting them know why that is the case. Majority of people watching this video will be students. As a student, if you're asked for feedback about your course and you say, I really don't like this bit, it's not working, it's giving us lots and lots of problems. If you feel that that's not listened to, if you feel that's not made any difference, what are you going to do the next time they ask you for a survey? Well, they didn't listen to us last time, so why would I bother? Why am I going to fill this in? Staff are going to be exactly the same. If they feel that it doesn't make any difference, they're not going to fill it in. So it's really, really important for the company that they act on the feedback that's coming back from the employees, that they have that communication. Forums, just getting the employees together, talking to them, getting their opinions, getting ideas. Sometimes they can come up with alternatives to, if the company's got a problem and you're not too sure how to deal with it, or the company thinks, right, this is the problem, we're not making enough money, we need to make redundancies, and you go and talk to the staff. You don't know, they may be able to come up with an idea that you haven't thought about, which might mean that you don't have the redundancies or you have less redundancies. So those forums can be very good. Equally, another good idea is to have suggestion schemes. Some companies with their suggestion schemes will have a reward attached to it. So say for instance, the company is a factory and they've got a suggestion scheme set up for the factory shop workers, and if they put forward a suggestion to help streamline the processes in the factory and it makes money or saves the company money, then what happens sometimes is the company will give a bonus to the employee that's put forward the suggestion. So if the company saves £1,000, they might give the employee £100, something like that. That feeds in nicely with the next idea of, it's fine having communication and listening to employees, but you also need to think about how you look after your employees. What are the policies and procedures that you have in place? How do you recruit your employees? Do you try to recruit people that have got the right attitude, that are going to fit in with your culture, that are going to support what you're trying to do? Are they motivated? Are they interested? So thinking about who you recruit in the first place, and then making sure that you support your employees, you provide them with training and development opportunities, and to make sure that you're getting the engagement and you're getting the motivation out of employees, think about what are the rewards, what are the things that are going to motivate them, and tailor your reward scheme so that it will actually support that. I talked about the suggestion schemes and having a bonus attached to that. That would be an example of both recognition, because they've put forward a suggestion that's made a difference, so you're recognising their effort, their input, but you're also rewarding what they've done. So you'd also want to think about recognition schemes so that employees know that they're doing a good job and you're telling everybody about what they're doing and about how the engagement of the employees is benefiting the company and driving the company forward. So you want to think about the recruitment and learning and development, reward and recognition, pay strategies, all of these sorts of things all need to fit into the strategy as well. Once you've designed your strategy, you have to make sure that what you're trying to do is what's actually happening, There's no point in, as I said before, there's no point in having a strategy that says, let's have open communication, train our managers so that managers are motivating and encouraging their employees, that they have an open door policy. If when you actually go to the shop floor, the manager's door's shut, they're not talking to the employees, they're not listening to them, it's fine on paper, but it has to be implemented, it has to be rolled out and actually be happening within the organisation. Talked about getting surveys to get the opinions and get feedback from employees, but usually where companies have good strategies for employee engagement, they will be carrying out employee satisfaction surveys on a fairly regular basis. College, for example, sends out a culture strategy to the staff, a cultural survey to the staff every 2 years. So it gets our input about what we think's working, whether or not we're happy, whether or not we're engaged, whether we feel our managers are supporting us. And they ask that information from us every 2 years. But what companies can also do is in between times, they can do what are called pulse surveys. So it's just a short survey just to see how things are, to test the water, find out, are things working? Are they getting the results that they're expecting? So that if you do that and you find that your engagement levels are not as high as you want them to be, then you can look at perhaps why is that not happening and what is it that you're doing or not doing that's making the engagement levels drop. And then if you can identify what that is, you can look to see how to improve on that as well. And thank you very much for listening. I hope that has been of interest and beneficial to you.